Alright, so it's Wednesday, the third day of my booktube week, and I asked you to suggest some tags for me to do, and you did do so. I have 4 tags here that I'm going to do in this one video. That's right, I'm doing 4 tags in one video, so I apologize if this video is very long. The first tag I'm going to do is the NSFW tag, the Not Safe for Work tag. First question, what is a book that you wouldn't want your parents to walk in on you while you were reading it? And I've been trying to think of if there's anything like that I could think of, and I'm struggling, if I'm honest. I mean, my parents are pretty cool. I guess maybe something like 50 Shades of Grey, something like that. I think they might laugh at me for that. Not that I'd want to read that book. It's storming outside and you're home alone. What book would only make this worse? I quite like storms, actually. I really enjoy storms, so I think a book might ruin it. I want to watch the storm. So basically, it's asking what one of the creepiest books you have. I guess maybe a Hannibal Lecter book, but I'm not too sure about that, to be honest. I don't read scary books. Though, on the topic of scary books, Quirk Books have just sent me this, Horror Store by Grady Hendrix. It's about a haunted furniture store, and the book is designed to look like a certain Swedish store's catalogue. And I think it's fantastic. I can't wait to read this. Have you ever read a book simply because of the controversy surrounding it? I honestly can't say I have. Though, it may have been a little bit of my motivation to buy The Catcher in the Rye, which I've not read yet. Some of my motivation to buy that book may have been influenced by the fact that that's apparently the book that made the guy who shot John Lennon want to shoot John Lennon. What is the most cringe-inducing romance or sex scene you've ever read? Ooh, that's a difficult one. That's a difficult one since I don't really read much with sex scenes. There's a quite weird sex sequence that it's not explicit, but it's implied, and it comes out of left field, and you don't expect it, and you don't really want it to be there. And that is in The Ocean at the End of the Lane by Neil Gaiman. Yes, I know. What books have made you question an author's sanity? Well, I couldn't pick one book, but I could definitely pick an author. That's George Orwell. Both of these books, maybe this one's a little more left field, but this book, I have read it. I've got the bookmark on the Introduction to Newspeak. This book, very dark, very twisted, very horrible. Some of the things that Winston says is so depraved, and I'll tell you more about that in my review, which is coming tomorrow. It does make me question Orwell's sanity. Have I ever put a book down because the content's too much for me? No, I've never done that. I have put a book down because the content's not enough for me. That's saying I've put a book down because I don't enjoy the book. That book being The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. What fictional character do you have the most not safe for work thoughts about? I suppose I'll go with the classic, Hermione. Show me your most not safe for work book cover. Now, I struggled to think of any for this, but then I remembered that I had a certain comic. This is a man in lingerie. It's the Rocky Horror Picture Show comic book, issue 1. So I guess it would probably be this. Have I ever read any erotica or romance novels, and what did I think of them? I haven't. I've honestly never read anything of that sort. It doesn't really appeal to me. I feel like I'm a little bit out of the demographic for that genre of books, so I've never really read it. You come across a portkey. What fictional world would you not like to be transported to? Alright, that was the end of the Not Safe for Work tag, and now I'm going to move on. What? I know! Next up is the Reading Habits tag. Do you have a certain place for reading? I don't. I can generally read most anywhere that's quiet. As long as it's quiet. I can't read with sound. Bookmark or random piece of paper. I like to use bookmarks, but I have in the past used pieces of paper, but I often try to use things of significance, like I use train tickets, not like a scrap of toilet paper. Can you just stop reading, or do you have to get to like the end of the chapter to be able to put the book down? I don't have to get to the end of the chapter necessarily, but I often do have to at least finish the paragraph, or like where I feel there's a natural pause. I can't stop in the middle of a sentence, so to say, or in the middle of a conversation. That sort of is bad. Do you eat or drink while reading? Yes, I do. I often read with a cup of tea or something, just because I like tea. One book at a time or multiple? I often end up reading multiple books at a time, but I feel like I do better when I read one book at a time. I feel like unless I concentrate everything on one book, I'm not going to finish it. That's how I finished 1984. I made sure that I had to finish it, because tomorrow I need a review of it. So I forced myself to finish it. So I feel like I have to concentrate on one book to finish reading it, but I often start multiple books. Multitasking, music or TV while reading. God, no. No. I cannot do that. I once tried reading Harry Potter with the Harry Potter theme playing. No, it was too distracting. I can't do it. Reading at home or reading anywhere. I can read anywhere, I suppose, but as I said earlier, I like to read in quiet places. So whenever I'm reading somewhere else, I'll end up reading in a library or a quiet room on my own. I don't want to be around people because I'll get too distracted and I'll end up not reading. Do you read out loud or silently? It depends. I feel like some books need to be read out loud. Like, though this is not a book, this is a play, The Importance of Being Earnest by Oscar Wilde. I sat there reading this out loud, doing all the voices, because I feel like it's a drama. It needs to be done in that way. I often read Shakespeare out loud in addition to that. But recently I've started doing something new, which is one of the things that encourages me to make sure I finish a book, and that is reading along to the audiobook of a book. I was listening to the audiobook of 1984 while also reading it to make sure, one, I'm taking it in, but two, because I have the audiobook available to me, if I'm busy, I can still be reading the book and then just pick up where I left off. I don't need... I can do other stuff and still take in the book. I don't need to be sitting down and reading it, which is extremely convenient for me. Do you read ahead or skip pages? Actually, in relation to the audiobook thing, that often happens because my reading pace is often faster than the person reading it because they're reading it out loud and they would take longer pauses and they would be careful to enunciate because that's what they're doing, they're audiobook readers. And as a result of that, I end up maybe like reading a paragraph ahead and then realising, oh shit, I gotta go back. Breaking a spine or keeping it new? I prefer to keep books new, especially if I buy the book new and it doesn't have any cracks in the spine. If I buy the book with cracks in the spine, like secondhand, I don't mind so much. Like, I don't mind if it's already cracked. I'd be happy to continue cracking it. Also, once it's cracked, I feel like, I don't feel like it's a lost book. I feel like, that's a shame. It's not going to look as good on my bookshelf anymore. But oh well, that happened with 1984. It has a slight crack, and you know, it's a shame. Do you write in your books, depending on the book? I write in some books, especially the books that I have to study, and then other books I don't. For example, here you go. Here's a book of Seamus Heaney poetry, which has a lot of writing in it, because he was our set poet for AS level, so that's a lot of annotation. I was also highlighting in Leaves of Grass as I was going through that as well. So I suppose it's mostly poetry that I would be writing in rather than novels. Alright, that's 2 tags down. Now it's time to start on the 3rd tag. I know, it's still going. Why are you still here? This must be painful at this point. The Summer Madness tag. That's what you have. You have Summer Madness. Why are you still here? Go outside. Show us a book with a summery cover. We Were Liars by E. Lockhart. It's got a very summery cover with the sea and the kids playing in the sea. And it's got a very summery setting as well. I highly recommend this book if you haven't read it. It's very good. That's all I want to say about it. I don't want to ruin anything more. I did write a song about it. Don't listen to that if you haven't read the book. Pick one fictional place that you'd like to visit as a summer holiday. That is difficult. Like, it has to be a fictional place. It can't be a real place in a novel, which doesn't help, because I'd say like New York. Suppose this doesn't count, since it's not really a fictional place, it's a virtual place. The Oasis from Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. Yes, I've managed to mention this book. The Oasis is this sort of all-encompassing virtual reality world that most of the world lives in the year 2044, I think. I just think it'd be a nice place to go. I mean, I love virtual stuff, and like you can in that place you can go to fictional places, like you can go to Azeroth, or you can go to the Star Trek universe, or the Firefly universe. Space Cowboys. You're about to go on summer vacation. What novella do you read on the plane? Now, I like the fact that it said novella. It said novella because plane flights can be short. Not if I'm going to say America. It takes me 7 hours. I can easily read a novel in 7 hours. What would I take? I'd take something I haven't read yet. I'm being very non-specific. I'd take something I haven't read yet. I don't think I'd want to take something I had read. I'd just take something I haven't read yet. Maybe the sequel to The Last Policeman by Ben H. Winters. Or The Marriage Plot by Jeffrey Eugenides. Maybe not that, it's quite big, and you don't want to take big books on a plane. The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. That's not cheery. Au revoir, Crazy European Chick by Joe Schreiber. I picked that up entirely for the title. You have a case of the summertime sadness. What book will pick you up? All My Friends Are Superheroes by Andrew Kaufman. This book is the most feel-good book I think I've ever read. You can read it in about an hour, and it's just so happy. It's very funny. It's not like a happy story, but it made me feel good. It's a feel-good book in the same way that Ferris Bueller, for me, is my feel-good movie. If I ever feel sad, I could read this in less time than it would take me to watch Ferris Bueller. Though I'd probably end up watching Ferris Bueller because Ferris Bueller. Which fictional character would be your beach babe? As I said before, Hermione. To match your ice cream, you need a cool sidekick. Which character do you choose? H from Ready Player One, because that is a fantastic character. H is just the best friend, and I think I'd love to have him around. And I've moved on to my final tag, and according to my camera, I've been recording for 19 minutes already. This is the Achilles heel tag. Which type of setting are you a sucker for? I'd say probably road trips. I really enjoy books like Vivian vs. the Apocalypse and Paper Towns. I think maybe for that reason, I really enjoy road trip novels. I really enjoy Bill Bryson's travel novels. Like, I know those are non-fiction, but I think that's a big factor of why I enjoy it. I enjoy that. I enjoy An Abundance of Catherines as well. I've named 2 John Green books in this selection. What genre makes you go nuts and obsessed? Probably, I don't know, sort of like witty British contemporaries. Or anything witty and British, I feel works. Like The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams, or Dirk Gently by Douglas Adams, or Shades of Grey by Jasper Fforde. I feel like that's, like, I love reading that. But I also just love great American literature. At the moment, I'm on a bit of an American literature high. I'm really enjoying that stuff. What type of characters hit your soft spot? The best friends. The best friends always get me. Like, I love the Colonels. I love the Bens. I love the H's. I love the Rons. I love the main character's best friend. They're fantastic. Best friends in books are just the most fun, and I have a soft spot for them. What book relationship makes you go weak at the knees? I don't know. I don't know. I suppose maybe the only book relationship I've ever cried about was the relationship that was in Bloom by Matthew Crowe, but I thought the crying may have been for exterior reasons from the relationship, so I don't know. I can't answer that one. I don't think any of them. I don't have an OTP, so to say. What type of plot would probably be the end of me? I don't know. It'd probably have to be like a great American sci-fi road trip in the future, like something crazy like that. It would be the most outlandish thing, and I think I would love it. Alright, I think I'd fall in love with a virtual road trip through Great America with time travel and, like, wit and... So, those were 4 tags, and I tag all of you to do all of them. You don't have to do them all at once like I did, but I have done 4 tags, and this is a big chunk out of my 24 hours a year thing, but I do apologise that the video was a bit too long and maybe a little bit boring, but it's BookTube week. Tomorrow I'll have a review of 1984 for you. I have a lot to say about this book. So I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye. Alright, so right now I'm in the middle of BookTube week in which I'm just doing a week of just BookTube videos. So if you haven't seen Monday's video, which is a review of You by Austin Grossman, or Tuesday's video, which was technically filmed today, which was a review of The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald, you can, like, click on them here and then make sure you watch them, because I like those videos. And if you like my videos, you can subscribe. There's a button, like, right below this screen.